we've joked about this in the past, having like a nice top on, but you're still in your BJ bottoms,
Don't bust me. Don't bust me. I got mine on right now. Okay. I'd stand up, but I don't want to embarrass myself.
You're listening to Rambling Realtors with Andrew Roach and Ross Bridges. Tune in each week for in-depth conversations on all the latest real estate trends and the thriving West End GTA markets. Go beyond the real estate world as Andrew and Ross share personal and professional experiences to help you find your way home.
So, as we're getting started here, we're kind of talking about how we're having pretty action-packed summer. We're seeing some pretty consistent activity still. I'm noticing that there's not as many homes on the market. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I mean, let's say I wouldn't disagree with it. I think this has been such an odd year that, what are you comparing it to? You're comparing it to previous years, right? We're talking about like, last July to July of 2019 to July of 2018, et cetera, et cetera. Are we just kind of talking about since June or since May or since April, right? Yeah, I think I would agree there's less homes on the market. And I think that's a cyclical element of the real estate industry, right? The summer typically slows down. And, if we talk about COVID, I think it slows down in the summertime because people have other things to do. Their focus is elsewhere, and it's vacation or just sitting by the pool or whatever the case may be. They're doing stuff. Their mind is elsewhere. And I don't think that is any more accurate than this year when we've been locked up for such a long time that it's like, I'm free, right? And everything seems to be opening. We're in phase 3 or stage 3 or whatever it's called, right? People can live their lives a little bit more again. So it's not surprising that potentially the market or the inventory is a little bit less, if that's what you're seeing. That's my take on it.
No, yeah, I completely, you're right. It's cyclical. We see it year in, year out, where the dog days of summer, where there's a little bit less activity. But like you and I are both seeing consistency, right? We've got some consistent buyers, some listings coming up. And yeah, it's nice to see that everything's kind of returning. You're getting a little bit more life. Canada's Wonderland. You're seeing a lot more people that are going traveling a lot more now, which is amazing. Getting back to what we all wanted, right? So.
Totally. I mean, I'm not the greatest planner in the whole wide world, and that goes, in our personal lives. So when when there's a long weekend coming up, a lot of people are already booking that in like June or maybe May or April. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, tomorrow's a long weekend. Let me see if I can go somewhere and do something, right? And not surprisingly, everything's booked, right? We were gonna go camping, and everything's booked. I found like 2 places, but we've got an RV, and so it won't fit, right? So they're everywhere I've looked, and again, my own fault leaving it to the last minute. But I guess it kind of to your point about people are getting out there and living and doing stuff again, right? And it's not the fact that everything is booked, jam solid, is talks to that.
It's funny because I think in some ways COVID has made things a lot more efficient. Like we're seeing a lot more appointments, a lot more, you're getting in, you're getting out. So there's more efficiency, but it's also frustrating when you're wanting to go out for a round of golf or a round of golf is taking 5 hours because there's so many people on the course or is
that why it takes 5 hours? It's not because I'm shooting 120. I'm looking for yet another ball. Okay.
There's a lot of rust. We haven't played a lot, so there's definitely a lot of rust. No, and what I've noticed too, I've been working a little bit more into Mississauga and Toronto, and traffic is back. So I've been stuck in traffic a few times over, going into the city or driving back even last night from Mississauga back into Oakville, Burlington. Just got hit right there at the Ford Drive, went up to Dundas and around. So yeah, it's summertime and people want to get out, right? Out and about, as Canadians would say, right? So
There you go. Yeah, you're right. You made a good point about like some of the efficiencies that have been forced upon us with COVID, and the silver lining to the whole ordeal. I think a lot of people have have the opportunity to work from home, and employers have seen that, yeah, stuff gets done. It's going to be a handful of them that are going to pull people back, of course, but I think a lot of people can see that, hey, I can work from home. I can be efficient in my job. I can get the work done. And I think a lot of employers will be, I think, long time pretty cool with that, which inevitably saves the employer money by not necessarily having to pay for the extra office space. Maybe they can downsize from 50,000 square feet to 40,000 square feet or something, right?
from
Save
home
with that.
or work from home,
Well,
right?
no, that's what I mean. But the employer,
Really
right? Like
costs.
if let's just say, I don't know, like a fifth of their workforce can work from home, that means that they don't have to have that extra space for those people to come to work, right? The saves the employee money by oftentimes not eating out, because not everybody is diligent about packing a lunch or whatever the case may be, and certainly maybe they don't need the second car, or they're definitely not burning as much gas, etc. Right? So silver lining to the whole COVID thing, as we kind of get back to some normalcy, but not to rush us along here, but we had some other things to talk about that we had on the agenda here. We're going to talk about a couple of things if we can get to it. Anyways, we started on the last episode a little bit of staging versus real staging versus virtual staging. You wanted to talk about some of the neighborhoods in various towns and cities, and what draws people to them potentially. Inflation has been an ongoing conversation. I kind of read an article a day on it. Economists, they all disagree. I shouldn't say they all disagree, but they all have their own opinion. Let's just say that, right? And so we'll see kind of like how that plays out. And then I don't know if that went hand in hand with your neighborhood thing, but you're talking about like children around water, et cetera, right? So
Yeah,
let's get into some of that.
absolutely. I think let's start off with inflation. Is it just me, or have we seen things go up bonkers since COVID started? No, it's not me. I think what we're seeing is just like more now than ever, as families, we're seeing that there's just ways that we have to cut costs and save money. And it's like, yes, we want to be out supporting local businesses, and yes, we want to be making sure that we're living our lives, but I was thinking maybe what you and I could do, Andrew, is over time, not just this episode, but ways that we can be helping our audience save money, right? And talking about smarter homes, I mean, we're going to touch more on technology with virtual staging and stuff, but smarter homes with, Nest thermostats, with different types of light bulbs, with, water saving, right? Using technology for ways that we can really be cutting down our costs. And then I was also kind of thinking, for all of those first-time buyers out there, or people that are renting, let's start kind of preparing you. And we've touched on this on previous shows, but let's be paying down those car payments, getting off those Visa bills, getting all those high interest things off your plate, because that's what's going to really make your credit score go up huge. If there's like, I think if you only have 20% of your Visa limit paid, then your credit score is going to go up exponentially, which is going to put you into the driver's seat. And then for all of you savvy, investors out there that already have a home, and maybe you're looking at your home equity line of credit or options, let's get money working for us at this point in our life, so that we can all be planning that good lifestyle, having money working for us, not against us. And what it all goes back to, and I mean, we talked about this, getting that investment property, getting that money, your money working for you and not against you. Because I feel like, have you seen it, Andrew, the last couple of years, where you just feel like prices have been going through the roof a little bit more than maybe it's you have a chance to stop and look at it a little bit more, but I just feel like prices have just been going up bonkers.
Well, certainly this last year, no question, and that's real. I mean, actually, it's funny because right before we started recording here, I was on an RBC I subscribe to some RBC economists, et cetera. But anyways, long story short is that, I've been following that trend for some time there. Energy has certainly been the biggest leader, right? We talk about gas prices have gone up. I mean, I drive an electric car, I drive a Tesla, so I don't really get it so much, but I also have a gas guzzling F-150. So when I'm filling that bad boy up at 135 liters for the tank, and I'm paying, what is it? It was $1.34, I think, the other day, right? And I was looking at what the premium is, $1.63 a liter. I'm like, holy guys, right? Like, so yeah, energy for sure. Energy, fuel prices have gone up substantially, and then that has a trickle down effect on shipping, right? So all your transport trucks that are moving goods and all that kind of stuff, logistics, all that kind of stuff, right? Even like the diesel trains, right, that are pushing stuff across the country or in through the states, et cetera. We've certainly seen it. Now, what my reference to the article that I was reading here is pretty much, it says that like passenger vehicle rentals, like rental cars, have gone up substantially. Natural gas, to a degree, but of course that makes sense as well a little bit. But things that haven't really gone up or have gone down would be clothing, communications, inner city transportation, right? So like, and maybe that just goes in line with your kind of supply demand kind of thing, right? Like maybe not a lot of people have been out there shopping because they're not necessarily ripping through their jeans all the time because they're staying at home. And we've joked about this in the past, having like a nice top on, but you're still in your BJ bottoms, Don't
bust me. Don't bust me. I got mine on right now. Okay. I'd stand up, but I don't want to embarrass myself.
Right. So, how many people are, not having to buy new clothes all the time, or you're not out there like, I need a new outfit because because my coworkers see me in this outfit all the time, like whatever the case may be. Right. So, yes, there has been noticeable inflation. But one of the consistent theme that I'm reading from the Bank of Canada and some other central banks around the world is that for the most part, everybody believes that that's going to be short term. That as soon as things get back up and running again, and we get back to full efficiency, because one of the reasons why I think supply chain has gone up so much, or transportation and all that kind of stuff, is supply demand. Right. So if you've got a big demand of people saying, I'm going to buy stuff from home, right, and I want you to mail it to me, et cetera, demand is still there, but supply gets stifled because you're not allowed to have people in the workforce because of COVID restrictions and protections, et cetera. Then you're not making as many units, but this demand is still there, or even if it's slightly less, then the cost of things go up. I mean, I'll punt it back to you with a question to say, I was a pretty avid Amazon shopper, but 2021, man, like things are ridiculously expensive on Amazon right now. Like something as simple as some little pucks that clean out the water tanks in my RV. I went to Canadian Tire, $18 on the shelf, but they were out, and I could have driven to another city to get some, but I'm like, I'll check and see what they are on Amazon. They were $37 on Amazon for the exact same thing, right? $18 to $37, right? And that's not the first thing that I've seen on Amazon where things are just through the roof expensive, right? So either someone's cashing in, or again, it's just that supply demand that where they just say, hey, I'm going to throw it out here, and if you want it, you'll pay for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of COVID, me and my buddies jokingly referred to it as the wild, wild west, right? Like people were just selling like, some old weights for like $100, right? Like people needed things to kind of keep themselves moving, right? Like Craigslist, Kijiji, it was just like, and the convenience. We talk about the convenience of package showing up at your door.
Oh yeah.
It's, I got a present today. What did I get? And you almost forgot what you ordered. That's, I got some inflatable pool stuff. I got this, I got that.
Yeah.
But I agree completely with you that we, as consumers, we got to be careful, because I think we're being targeted a little bit. Where I'm worried is more commodities, right? I think like are gas prices really going to go down? You know, like is fish, you know, all of our seafood, is that going to be going down? Milk, cattle, like the logistics. I think that those, we're just going to see those continue over, you know, the years to come. They're going to continue to be outrageous. And I just think that that has to do a lot with the supply chains, right? The logistics, the supply chains. So that's something that we all have to be cognizant of, right? So
yeah, and I do think that you're gonna have, you know, you're gonna have the free markets, right? Competition will come into play. I think that, you know, they know that, you know, the efficiencies that they can run at when they've got a full workforce behind them, when things are moving. Gasoline prices for sure, that they will affect things, but I don't know, like I said, you know, Bank of Canada is expecting this inflation that we're seeing to be short term.
mhm.
And if it doesn't, if it stays above the 2% benchmark, then they will look to step in, but they don't want to step in too early because they believe that once we kind of get the workforce kind of gets back into play on full steam, you know, restrictions are loosened, et cetera, that the inflation numbers will come back down to normal numbers, right? Normal historical averages.
Remains to be seen. Some days I question that. It's almost like the weatherman with them predicting what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Like we're seeing these extremes, but only time will tell with that. Andrew, are you okay if I do a couple of public service announcements right now?
I'm excited. You said you want to do some public service announcements, and I was like, what are these? They almost sound familiar. Let's get to it. Hit us.
So the first one is for family safety. Just a reminder for all of you out there with beautiful young children, please be safe near water, okay? So if you're visiting a cottage, if you've rented a cottage for the day, if you go, you know, you have to be extra careful with pools. But there's nothing more precious than our future generations, young children. So please be careful with children around pools, okay? I've heard of a couple horror stories, and there's nothing more important than that. So I just wanted to emphasize that, and hopefully that can get out there. Number two is more for a driving thing. Okay, I'm going to use a prop right now. My phone, I'm guilty of using my phone while I'm driving, and I might even get targeted for saying that. We all have to be extra careful right now with using our phones while driving. It is now 6 demerit points and a $3,000 fine. So, you know, we have to take advantage of, and Andrew and I are going to talk more about smart homes, smart cars. You know, it is the future of where we all need to be, but please be extra careful, not only for the safety of other people on the roads, but you know, talk about using Uber too much or having to work from home. Well, that's a quick way for that to happen. I had a client call me this morning, and his son, who is just getting his G2, and because of COVID, they put a lot of the testing has been put on hold. And he went out for his buddies up to Boston Pizza, and he had a beer. And of course, you know, the cops were kind of maybe targeting him out of the driveway, kind of pulled him over. You know, and so he is now going to have to deal with the consequences of that. So, you know, I'm going to say it how I think it is right now. There are, you know, officers out there, they have certain quotas, targets that they probably have to meet. So they are probably looking for excuses to pull people over. So let's just be extra careful. And those are my public service announcements for the end of July.
Very good. Well, all good points. You know, there's a reason why on the radio, you know, they talk about life jacket safety and all that kind of stuff heading up to the cottage. People forget about that, right? And it's an ongoing thing every summer. Hey, remind people, you know, be smart about it, right? So it's good that you brought that up.
And just one other thing too, for boating and driving, right? Like boating, drinking, driving. I don't know if they're going to start busting you for texting while you're driving your boat, but you heard it here first. It might be a thing. But please, let's be extra careful around boating and driving too, drinking and driving, because we know those go hand in hand. And I guarantee you they're going to be on the waterways as well too. And one other thing too, you're damned if you fight, a charge for this, for texting and driving and for drinking and driving. The reality is you get put in front of a judge, they could charge you more. It's going to cost you time, money. For drinking and driving, they charge you with 2 separate offenses, right? So you might get off on the first one, then you go back to court and you lose the second one. So it's all for naught. So now you spent 10, 15 plus $1,000 on legal fees, and it's cost you time, money, energy. So let's just not get caught in the first place. Let's just not do it, right? It's not like the wild west of the past where these are things that kind of happened, so this is speaking for all generations right now. I supported Matt a few years ago. I think of like growing up in Oakville and how it used to be. It's just not acceptable anymore. So we got to be extra careful. And for all of you, that Andrew included, who probably started driving and texting with our phones and talking like this while we were driving, we got to stop that too.
Yeah, for sure. Good points. Absolutely good points. You wanted to talk about smart homes.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit, and I think it's pretty cool with all these systems. Like, I'm not overly tech savvy, but I'm, in our line of work, we definitely have to get more engaged. Like with all these different programs out there for, controlling our energy and our water. Like, I got an app on my phone right now that I'm using for my sprinkler system for like the water features in the pool and stuff. And I think like we just have to be a little bit more cognizant of some cool technology that's out there. So, and you might have to invest in a little bit of money from Home Depot or Lowe's or Amazon for looking for some of these gadgets. But I think maybe it's something this can be, like we talked about earlier, like an ongoing conversation for how are ways we can be saving money and being smarter with our money as well too, right? It's with that money that we're saving, we can put it into better things. Like, I know you're amazing for your stock portfolio, for paying down your mortgage, paying down your car payments. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about smart homes for now. But I think maybe we can dive into it a little bit more and get a little bit more look into some more products. That could be something cool that you and I could do in the future episodes.
Yeah, and that's a huge topic, right? I mean, the things that you can do with smart homes nowadays is, a lot of people forget about it. Anything from like, you kind of touched on it with like your outdoor water sprinkler system, having that on, you think it could be on timers, but they can actually, you can turn them on and off from your phone potentially, set them on various timings so you can, turn them on and off multiple times a day if you wanted to. Open and close your blinds, turn on and off radio stereos, or bring in Spotify to different rooms. You can have LED lights that change color. You can have all kinds of like just really, 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 really cool things. Now, of course, it's a newish type of technology, and it costs a fair amount. But there's a lot of things that you can do if you wanted to start getting into that. One thing that I was wondering if you were going to get into when you kind of said, hey, listen, let's talk about this, was whether or not people are looking for that now, right? And what I found personally is in Milton anyways, and I'm sure it's different in Oakville and like some of like the really, affluent areas, pockets of Oakville, where it's like, if you don't have a smart home, then you're seriously falling behind. But there was, some conversation and talk that we had in the past where there was another real estate team that works this area that was going on a couple of years ago about how, smart homes is the new thing and that people will pay a premium for smart homes. And I just have not seen that. I literally haven't seen it. I think that smart homes in the short term are somewhat confusing to people, almost like solar panels. They're like, I don't know what this is. I don't want to pay for it. Where solar panel companies were running around saying, oh, your house is going to sell for so much more. You're going to get a premium if you put these on your roof. And the reality is that buyers were like, it's a new technology. I'm not sure how it works. And they're going to get holes in my roof, etc. Same thing with a smart home. Some people might be concerned about, and this was my concern when I first started talking about, because I'm more of a private person, is that I don't want my house on an open network. I want someone to be able to hack, hack my house, right? I don't want Google knowing when I come and go, et cetera. Like, we don't need that, right? I know they want it, but they don't need to know that about me. So you can get smart homes on a closed network, right? Just a localized network. So, you give up potentially being able to control things from your smartphone, because otherwise it would have to be on an open network. But you can still, have a control panel in your home that says, hey, I'm upstairs in my bedroom, and I forgot that the basement light is on. I'll turn it off from my control panel in my bedroom, or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I am seeing them more. If you're going into some of the high-end homes, you got your little control panel, and it's great for the lighting, or for for the surround sound system, or for certain things to do with the blinds. You see that in some high-end condos. I mean, any homes, right? But I like what you said. Like, in terms of, it's still in the infancy. We're still, like, I think it's pretty cool with all the lighting systems that we're seeing now for the different things that you can do around your home to control and save the energy costs, right? So
Yeah.
things like that, that's what I'm excited about. But yeah, we're all a little, with Google listening, Big Brother watching, Big Brother listening, there's still a little bit of concern there for sure. But the security, like ring systems, like, yeah, you could be at your workplace in the city, and you could see who's that person delivering that package to your front home. So I think that there's a lot of things to be said about from a security standpoint. Control, monitoring, but then like, at the point is it too much convenience, right? Like, we at the end of the day, what are the costs? These things break. Oh my God, it's like having that Mercedes versus that reliable Toyota. Like, oh, I've got to pay all these additional costs for servicing and maintaining these things, and they get you on like the monthly costs. Like, I'm pretty excited about, like, even things like using a Peloton right now. I don't have one, but a dear friend of mine, she does. And it's like, they get you for the initial bill, but then it's also like, $50 a month. But it's like having a built-in personal trainer. So it's convenient. It's something that's great to use. And I think we're going to see that more and more, not only with our homes, but we're going to see it more and more with workout equipment, like Tonal, like all these different ones, like, Facebook, Google, they're all getting on board for all these different systems. And it's, what's the one where you can, like, is it Portal, Facebook Portal, where I think you can like literally see like a more of a whole version of someone, and you can be talking to them, things like that.
I don't know. I know that my son has the Oculus, which is
Oculus. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the VR headset.
No, but the Portal and Oculus, like Oculus is like just VR, right? Like he's using that.
Yeah.
Is that
what you're talking about?
No. There's a different one, like Portal, for like just you're like basically you can talk into the person as if they were there, like, just larger screens. So there's all these different gadgets for communication, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure you've used Oculus. I know I've used it once before.
Oh yeah, I've played. I basically got it for we got it for his birthday, and I'm like, I got to make sure this thing works.
3 days later.
Is it my turn yet, Dad? No, I'm still testing things out here. I'm just working through the settings. Actually, I know this is not the whole purpose of this podcast here, but seeing as we're talking about it, did you ever play the app The Room? It's a puzzle game on your phone.
No, but I'm going to. Sounds good.
Tell me about it. It was pretty cool. It was like it's an app on your phone. It's a puzzle, and you have to like, kind of work through the puzzle to get it. So there was a Room and The Room 2. Well, they came out with a Room VR headset, right? So you're walking around trying to solve these puzzles and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I love that stuff. I love it, right? So I finished it. Lisa's still working on it. I got her involved. But I gotta say, it's pretty funny watching somebody with the VR headset, and they're like, you're totally immersed in it, right? Like, you're in it. Yeah, you at the very beginning you think, okay, well, I got a VR headset on, I feel weird or whatever. But eventually you just get immersed in your game. You forget about it. When you're watching somebody and they're sitting there playing and they're doing this and they're trying to grab things, whatever, it's funny. And it's a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. No, I hear like people for Oculus, you have like rooms like with like boundaries, and it's like
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
if you leave your safe zone, the screen kind of goes away and it tells you, right? So you just don't just walk into stuff.
so people are going to be wanting bigger homes just so they can have like a dedicated area just for, or their basement just for Oculus
That's right.
or VR.
A bigger room they can sprint around on.
Awesome. Well, I like how we're jumping around here. Coming back to, I like what you were saying too about like we're all getting out and doing things. Let's, a couple things that I know, like there's a Van Gogh exhibit that's in the city. They were doing like you could drive through it. The ROMs now open up. So it's nice to kind of maybe go back into the city. You're talking about going out doing some RVing, and you just had that beautiful little like getaway with your wife, Lisa. You went out and tell me a little bit about how that went, because that sounded like that was pretty cool.
So I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but one that we just did last weekend where we went to the go-kart track.
No, not the go-kart track. I think it was a few weeks ago. It was like for your birthday or something, or anniversary, where you were kind of like under the stars.
Oh yeah, so that was months ago, man. That was in the spring. So I guess I think it was it was for my birthday. I guess that's right. Yeah, so it would have been early June.
Okay. So like 6 weeks ago.
6 weeks.
It's been a long summer. Okay.
That's true. Well, the summer's blown by.
I'm just jealous. It sounded pretty cool. So share with our audience what it was about. I'm sure it was a nice little getaway.
It was a really cool experience. It was I can't remember what it was called now. Glen Oro Farms or Glen Oro something. But anyways, it was like it was a dome tent, right? So it was like it was a platform, and it has a canvas tent around it that's built in with structure, and then the top is glass or by plastic, whatever, and then it's got like basically a big bunk bed in it, right? So you climb the bunk bed in the middle of this like dome tent, so that you're up close to the roof, close to the ceiling there, and then you sleep under the stars, right? So if it's a nice clear night, then you just have stars all around you, and that's kind of the idea. But then below it's got a washroom, like a little kind of small kitchenette kind of thing, whatever, a little fridge, etc. Right? And then I think it's on like 200 acres. So they've got like hiking trails all over the place. We couldn't do it because of COVID restrictions. And they didn't have as many, but they've got horseback riding that you could have signed up for, and those were all full because I think we're doing one tour a day instead of the multiples that they normally do or something like that. But yeah, no, it was again, like cool experience, just kind of get away, right? We were just slammed with work, and just, it's been a while since we'd even had just a night off without, love the kids, don't get me wrong, but just to not have that mental processing, dedicated in the back all the time, thinking, okay, what are the kids doing? What time is it? Got to get this, got to get that. They got to go here. It's dinner, it's lunch, it's breakfast. Are they doing stuff? Have they been on their iPads too long? Get outside, go swimming, blah, 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 right? Like just to unload that, right? So it was good. It was good. It was one night, right? One night getaway, but it was good just to kind of unplug for a bit.
Awesome. Well, you deserve it, and I'm sorry because it was a while ago, and you probably forgot about how nice it was to unplug, but at least you got to. So cool. Going forward here, I've had the pleasure of taking out a beautiful young couple. They are doctors. She's originally from England. He is from Canada. And, special shout out to Sindhu and Saji if they ever hear this. We were kind of comparing neighborhoods, and we've started in Oakville, and we've gone into Burlington, and we've been in Mississauga last night. And, she kind of has been challenging me and like looking for those happy mediums in communities and saying, well, we want to explore all options. Originally it was looking in Old Oakville and the Morrison area. People coming from Toronto will know that area more as Eastlake. Myself, I grew up in that area. I know it is Southeast Oakville, but like trying to find those neighborhoods of those happy kind of mediums where you meet. So in portions of Old Oakville, it's more on the grid, closer to the city, closer to the downtown core of Oakville. You would see the smaller lots, but still, and you'd have a mix of some of these heritage homes, historical homes, And still some homes are a little more modern, not much in way of new development. And then you get more into the Morrison area and have these big sprawling lots, right? So that was the first initial test. Then we were into Burlington. And I was reminded, even though Oakville and Burlington from an area from I guess your actual square footage, like the actual size of Oakville and Burlington, they're smaller. They both have these beautiful water down, like off the water downtowns, right? And Oakville is probably really renowned for its downtown core. And with Burlington, like the sprawl off of Brant and down off by Spencer Smith Park, you really have these warm, off the water, that lake feel, right? And then you go into Mississauga, and I was there yesterday going through Lauren Park and Port Credit and parts of Mississauga Road. And I was reminded that Mississauga is more like all these little like districts. It's so massive. And you can obviously go on for talking about Milton and all those surrounding areas, because Milton is made up of all of those little different communities as well too. But it's like kind of, as you're exploring, and maybe there's a lot of you out there kind of thinking like, well, what are my options in terms of homes? Like one of the things that Andrew and myself and our teams offer, we like to go out and educate you and give you these tours and show you the surrounding areas and give you like a real feel for the community. And no better time to do it than right now. Things have opened up. Might be a little bit more traffic, but you're going to see a lot more life as well too, and good for people watching as well. So that's been a really cool experience that I've been doing weeks, and it's nice to see people just everywhere out and about, that I've now said twice on this episode. Feeling Canadian.
Yeah. Well, let's say it a couple more times, because it's true, right? I mean, it is nice to get out and see people. And I guess it depends on your personality, I suppose, right? I mean, some people that are like, very social and just want to be around a massive crowd all the time. And other people probably were just loving the COVID lockdowns, where they could kind of just go walk around and there wasn't really a lot of people, right? And now everything's opening back up, and they're like, people's everywhere. Right. But yeah, no, it's you're right. There's a lot of really, really cool neighborhoods around West GTA, whether Halton or Peel, whatever. Even going out to Wellington, right? Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, Guelph. They all have their own story. They all have the era that they were developed in. You get into like the South, I mean, the history, and this very well, the history of Oakville was cottage country for Torontonians, right? When you want to get out of the city, you went to Oakville for the cottage, right? To get down to be on the lake and get out of the city. So when you're going all the way back to, the earlier ages when that was kind of developed, what is maybe the 20s, 30s, 40s or something like that, those were the cottages.
It was a port town, right? You had all the supplies coming in there right off of like 16 Mile Creek, where they bring in all the supplies, and then that's where like a lot of the original, like the carpenters, the builders, all the original like pioneers were kind of building that area as well too. But yes, 100%, it was supported by Toronto primarily, but then there was also a huge abundance in Hamilton and Dundas, and I think there was that horrible fire back in the 20s in Dundas that really destroyed a huge part of the infrastructure of Hamilton. But Oakville was booming because it just had the waterway there, and it had all of the infrastructure. Yeah, 20s, 30s, 40s. That's a lot of old money. New money was coming into Burlington, claiming big chunks of land, right? So the pioneers of Oakville, the Chisholms, the Kerrs of Oakville.
Yeah, and then so I mean, if you think about that, like I don't think there was necessarily a big change in development between like the 20s, 30s, and maybe even 40s. But after the war, and everybody comes, the baby boomers, and everyone's coming back from the war, and there was all this new incentives for home buying, and they didn't have CMHC back then, so then they started bringing out these loans and all that kind of stuff. How can we help you buy a house, right? All that wartime houses, right? Those late 40s, early 50s, right? And then we start seeing like decade by decade, the change in the home, the layout. You can walk into a house and without knowing anything about the neighborhood where you are, walk into a house and know almost exactly when that house was built by the style and the layout. And of course, if it hasn't been completely renovated naturally, right? But if it's in kind of its original state, almost, you know, almost exactly when it is. And so whether it's, you know, the 60s, you get into the 70s where you've really got a lot of back splits and side splits, and then you get into the 80s where now you're starting to see en suites, et cetera. 90s, you know,
Larger
you can
homes,
see,
you know,
right?
the boom in the 80s where the homes got a lot bigger, the demand. I don't know if it was the if it was immediately what we were seeing from the States, or if it was because as Canadians, we were in our homes so much, but it was fascinating to see like into the early 80s, the demand for these larger homes. But yeah, like you and I could look at a home from the outside and be like, yeah, that's probably built in the mid 60s, right? Just from kind of looking at the homes.
Yeah, for sure, right? So, you know, so I digress. When you start, the same thing can almost happen with a neighborhood, right? Where you can see, like, so my point is, I guess that you go neighborhood to neighborhood, the field changes, the house changes, the design, like even the design of the neighborhood, right? Where you have a lot of courts and a lot of it was typical we have in Dorset Park here in Milton, right? Where you had these courts that would all back onto a park that were only really accessible by the houses around it. Yeah, there would be a walkway to get there, but it's not like the parks nowadays where it's a big open massive park with all these parking lots where people will drive in from out of the area or drive a couple of blocks to go to the park. Back then it was, you know, how the design of the neighborhood. You can look at Google Maps satellite view and look and see. You can almost tell just by that too. When was this neighborhood developed? You can get a pretty good idea. So to your point with your buyers, as you go around and you're looking at different neighborhoods, they all have a different feel. They all have a different story, right? They all have things that they offer that maybe one doesn't, the other one does. And you know, when you're going around looking for a house, a home, I should say, the neighborhood is very much part of that. Whether it's the municipality, if you're looking between 3 different municipalities in 2 different regions, you're looking neighborhood to neighborhood. You're looking for proximity to amenities or work, and then you're getting into the actual house itself, right? So there's a lot that can go into it. So especially for someone that's, you know, in the one case, you know, the gentleman, it sounds like is Canadian, but the wife isn't from Canada, so she's coming in with a different colored glasses on, being like, okay, this is different. What do I want, right? I can appreciate that.
Well said. Totally. Awesome. Yeah. So now one last thing I know that you wanted to talk about too, my friend, like the virtual staging versus actual staging.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to, we touched on this on the last show, and, you know, it's, I'm not going to so much, I guess I will, I'll tell you what I think, but I also was going to ask you as well, what your thoughts are, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah, as an agent, or as a consumer, like, how do you feel when you are clicking through some pictures, and at first maybe it doesn't pop out, but you're like, okay, this is nice, I like this, okay, blah blah, and then you show up and it's vacant? How does that make you feel, right? I'm asking you right now.
Yo, cheated, definitely. Yeah, and I didn't know if it was rhetorical.
I know. I can tell by your face.
So, it's very okay. So staging creates like it's playing on all our senses, right? It's playing like there could be soft music on the background, fragrance, fabrics, and at the end of the day, us as realtors, we're like, you have to look past all that.
Mhm.
And you know, a big part of our job is to make sure that the pictures are ideal for it's painting that picture. It's getting people excited about going to see a property. So do I struggle with renderings? Like, there's nothing I find more infuriating when a client calls me and they've seen this beautiful rendering for the outside of a home and they're like, oh, it's only $1 million. You mean I can go buy this gorgeous custom home it's for sale for only $1 million? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, that's actually just a lot. And it's, if you go to picture number 27, it'll show you that it's a bungalow.
Yeah.
But all of those pretty pictures, those renderings, false advertising, right? So in terms of like RICO guidelines. At some point, they're probably going to kind of give you a little slap on the wrist for these renderings, but it's advertising. It's like, why do we have another one of my beefs is, sir, okay, so TREB, Toronto Real Estate Board, why they can have a range of square footage for homes from 3,500 to 5,000 square feet.
Right.
That's a pretty massive discrepancy. So it could be like 3,507, and for future sales. But going back, and I mean that I went off on a tangent there, like we do, right? We ramble. But going back to the staging, I think it's important for you to explain. Like that's why you have a realtor to say, just so you know, you can tell looking at these pictures that this is clearly virtually staged, because you can tell, right?
Well, we can.
I
can, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't.
No.
Right. And it's like watching a movie and all of a sudden there's some CGI in there. And yeah, okay, it looks cool and it looks realistic, but you're like, oh, that's CGI. That's not real. Right. It looks cool, but your brain is like, it's not, it looks pretty close, but there's something wrong with it. Right. And so when you're going through and they're like, this is what it's like. But I guess my point is that for me as I would never do that as an agent. I would never do that as a listing agent to set up potential buyers to be disappointed. Because I think that, like, if anything, you want to move a buyer down the emotional road.
What if your client wanted to do that though, and you were put into that situation? Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly with everything that you're saying, but what if your client's like, nope, I don't want to stage it. Let's do virtual staging.
I would explain exactly what I'm about to say, and I would say that you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting up all the buyers for disappointment.
Excellent.
Right? They're going to be, they're going to see it online. They're going to say, ooh, wow, it looks so pretty. Oh my goodness, I love this house. I want it. Oh my God, I want it. They open the door. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, hoodwinked.
So now you're coming in and you went from, a 9 or a 10 and you're boom down to a 5. And that is the lingering taste that they're going to have in their mouth at the end. Right? It's like you eat a delicious meal and the last thing you remember is the last bite.
No, and going into a vacant home, there's typically two things I'll tell my clients. One, there's probably a better opportunity here because it's vacant. So they're probably a little bit more desperate and they're probably wanting a short close.
Right.
And two, you want to look past all the furniture anyway, right? You want to see, like, I just sold this beautiful townhome down in Nelson and it was tenanted for 7 years. And this is like your dream tenant. The home showed so beautifully, right? And then you go through when tenants left and you're just looking through the home and you're like, wow, like having a home that's lived in and has that warmth. Showed a beautiful home, one of Sam McDaddy's listings last night in Mississauga, and it was a lived-in home and it showed beautifully, right? It was a gorgeous, gorgeous home. And it's nice sometimes when a home feels lived in versus, oh, it's vacantly staged, right? Like vacantly staged almost feels like it's missing so much, missing that warmth, missing that character, versus like, oh, it's a vacant home, right?
It feels like a building instead of a home. Yeah. How do you get emotionally attached to a building?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Furthermore, like when you walk into the empty house, right? Because it's been virtually staged. And we've said this so many times, a vacant house looks much smaller than a house with furnishings. Now, you don't want it to be packed. You want that happy medium, because then again, like an overly full house looks smaller than a house that, again, just has modest furnishings. But the number of times that we have gone into a vacant house that, to your point, was tenanted. The tenants just moved out and now they're selling it, so it looked worn. Of course, the landlord was too lazy and cheap to go in there and fix anything that was broken.
Right.
Vacuum, clean it up at all.
Yeah.
Right. Clean it. Just send in a cleaning person and let's just clean this so it looks good. And the clients say, my furnishings won't fit. My bed won't fit. My bed won't fit with a side table, right? And it's a good thing I know that my wingspan is the width of a king size bed, so I can go and I can put my wingspan out and say, this is a king size bed, right? Oh, okay. Are you sure? Yep, I know first because I have a king size bed and I know that I can touch both sides of it, right? And now you're trying to now you're measuring stuff out. But if somebody doesn't, if the agent doesn't know that, they're going to be like, oh, and how many times does the agent just take the lead of the buyer where they're like, oh, my stuff won't fit, it's too small. Okay, let's go to the next one. Right. And that's it. You lost your opportunity.
I also struggle whenever a buyer, and this is something that has happened repeatedly. There's so many things that happen in our career where it's like, oh, heard that one before. But when they're talking about their existing furniture for buying a home, right? Yeah. And I get it if it's a family heirloom or you've got we all have some beautiful pieces. I probably have 3 or 4 pieces that mean a lot to me. But if it's certain pieces of furniture, I think we need to look past the existing furniture that we have. I get it if it's a beautiful wardrobe that was handed down from your grandmother or a couple pieces that you need measurements. And that's why we measure. But at the end of the day, go through it not thinking of your existing furniture. Go through it and look at this as a clean canvas, and you're going to have fun with it. Not go out and spend thousands of dollars on furniture, but you're going to make it your own.
We've gotten this. I've had this conversation a number of times as well, and I've joked that you're trying to buy a $900,000 house to fit your $2,000 couch,
which is now worth $600.
Right. And every time I say that, they say, oh yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Right. Because inevitably it's a sectional, it's an L-shaped couch and the sectional's on the wrong side. And where am I going to put my couch here?
It's a great basement couch. Get a new couch.
Right. Exactly. Right. Sell your $2,000 couch, and maybe you'll get, like you said, $600 or $1,000 or $1,200 and go buy another couch that will fit this space perfectly. And you'll love it.
On that note, there's crazy tariffs on furniture right now if it's not Canadian built. So yeah, there's the Wild West for furniture too. Kijiji, Craigslist, I don't think Amazon, Wayfair, I'm hearing great things about Wayfair. A lot of clients are having success there.
You want Canadian built stuff anyways.
Absolutely.
Right.
Heritage Furniture, Joshua Creek Furniture, shout out to you guys there in Burlington and Oakville, some amazing quality furniture.
Wonderful. And Old Oak Things here in Milton, shout out as well. Great stuff. A lot of the furniture made by Mennonites, right, locally, or, awesome. Or in Kitchener or whatever. So a lot of great things as well. Solid, good quality furniture.
Awesome. Been a lot of fun, my friend.
Yeah, as always, we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure that you do subscribe and tune in regularly to whether it's the YouTube channels or any of your favorite podcasting platform that you're listening to, and check us out online as well.
Awesome. And don't be afraid to contact Andrew Roach or Ross Bridges for any further information on your real estate needs.